We spent a lot of time on Lankas 1 and 2. That's because you'll use them the most, especially in the early game. Lankas 1 and 2 utilize an open stance. Lankas 3 and 4 both utilize the twist stance. Although Lankas 3 and 4 are not used in the early game, they definitely are still very useful. For example, when your feet are already too far apart to shuffle further to reach your opponent's other leg, or when your weight's already committed over your lead leg, then a step into a twist stance is worth its weight in firepower. Take a look now at Lanka 3. This is a shuffle and C-step movement. We'll begin just going back and forth without comment really, and then we'll break it down after that. In this position, twist stance. The window of opportunity for Lanka 3 is mid to late game. Stance, twist stance. The leg contact is my shin on his calf, but they're like leads. That's his left, this is my left. The risk factor, low, 1 out of a possible 5, and the combat potential, as with Lanka 2, is only 3 out of a 5. With Lanka 3, we move into our twist stance Lankas. Like Lanka 1 and 2, this one is also practiced using our 3 methods. The best window of opportunity, in other words, when you might effectively use Lanka 3, is, frankly, mid to late game. I can't imagine using this as part of an initial move, although I do reserve the right to change my opinion on this or anything else. The stance, as I said, is a twist stance. Leg contact is like Lanka 1 in that it's right on right or left on left, like leads. But this time, it is shin on calf, taking the characteristic of Lanka 2. Also, like Lanka 2, the risk factor is low. On a scale of 1 to 5, it's a 1. Likewise, its combat potential is also the same as Lanka 2, 3 out of a possible 5. But that's where the similarities end. Lanka 3 has the same combat potential as Lanka 2, but Lanka 3 has more latent or hidden potential than that, much more. You see, all along when I've said combat potential, I've meant an action's or movement's ability to immediately inflict damage or pain. That's the position's obvious combat potential. In that context, Lanka 3 is obvious, its immediate combat potential is only a 3. However, its latent, hidden potential moves it up to a 4. I'll show you that in just a minute, but for now, keep it in mind as we work through this drill. What I'm going to do is break this down. I'm going to step across here. I come into the hack, same hack that you saw done in Lanka 2. Now I'm going to cue him. Cue him as I simply pop him with my knee. In application, that'll change a little bit, but for now, we'll just keep it there. So I'm going to cue him. He steps back. That's his cue to step back. Now I'm going to angle outside his arm, very close to him. Going to line it up, press it in, and I C-step around. I'm going to cue him again. So my knee rocks, then he backs up. I stick to him. I'm following him right in. I glide right down his arm, make my C-step around here. As I hack a fraction of a second before I drive it in. Cue him again with my knee, picking up his arm, staying very close to him. C-step, my foot will come around. C-step, I hack a fraction of a second before my foot hits the deck. That's what we do as we break this down. One of the keys to this continual contact adhesion focused drill is the arm pickup itself. Let's look into that for a moment. Here then is a little detail that'll help you pick up that incoming punch when you're working with this adhesion, C-LOT, close contact method. Precisely where your hand picks up his depends solely on your partner or opponent's hand position relative to your own. If I come at Dave and I'm in the Lanka 3 position, notice his hand is high here. Once I cue him with my knee and he steps back, I ride the outside. Because my arm was lower, I simply pick it up. Then I can transfer control over and go into my C-step and lock. If, on the other hand, his hand position is lower and I'm in this position, I cue him. I'm going to just ride over the top, feed it alongside, go into my C-step with my lock. Precisely where I pick up his arm really depends solely on his hand position. If it's below mine, I scoop over. If it's above mine, I scoop up. Pretty simple. Foot placement is critical here because although the twist stance is more than sufficiently stable for our purposes, you must now align your rear leg if you are to fully exploit the Lanka's latent combat potential. Remember, as I said, we use two stances. An open stance with its front leg focus, and now a twist stance with its rear leg focus. Although the lock is done with the near leg, the focus and the leg that best exploits this Lanka's position is the back or rear leg. With the open stance Lankas 1 and 2, your position is relative to your opponent's. For Lanka 1, I'm on the 6 o'clock line. This is 12 o'clock. I'm on the 6 o'clock line. For Lanka 2, I'm on the 8 o'clock line. I'm angled more in front of him. Now, for the first time, your position is further behind him. As I move into the twist stance Lanka 3, I'm at this 4 o'clock position. Like Lanka 2, your actual foot placement is still 4 or 8 o'clock angles. If I was going the other way, I'd be on the other side. So you can see the 8 o'clock or the 4 o'clock position here for Lanka 2, the 8 o'clock position, Lanka 1, the 6 o'clock position. So, what can you do from Lanka 3? Well, think about pool. In pool, the best shot is not always a straight shot. Often you must make a bank shot, bouncing off the cushion before you actually sink the ball. Lanka 3 provides a perfect example of that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit a seemingly impractical target to gain access to a highly practical target. From the Lanka 3 position, I cue him, but I just flat knee him, boom, right in the buttocks, and now I step on this ankle. I can roll his ankle, or I could step a little higher, stepping on his calf, and that would tear out his knee for sure, or I could genuflect and tear him up. Whichever target I take, my approach, kneeing him on the buttocks, actually exploited Lanka 3's latent combat potential. Like Lankas 1 and 2, Lanka 3 adheres to the rule, stances, and methods we described early on. As with the other C-LOT methods, angulation in Lanka 3A is towards your partner's back and still outside of his striking arm. Although in a twist stance, and regardless of the method, A, B, or C, my shin remains steadfastly aligned on my opponent's near leg. And although its obvious combat potential is only moderate, its latent, hidden combat potential is quite high. Lanka 3A is one of the more difficult lankas to perform, but it presents perhaps the best of Indonesian fighting. For Lanka 3A simultaneously exemplifies Silat's first fighting strategy, position, 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 and brings to bear on the opponent Silat's preeminent fighting principle, adhesion. Let's look now at the Kun Tao method, Lanka 3B. In Lanka 2C, you saw a step, crossover, and shuffle movement. This time we'll use the crossover again, but we'll step after instead of shuffling. We'll run the drill a few times and then we'll break it down for you. Before delving into the details, let's take a quick look at a floor pattern here. Basically, this is the same pattern we used in Lanka 2C. The only difference is in Lanka 2C we initially stepped off to the left or northwest. This time we'll step off to the right or northeast. Otherwise, the pattern is identical. For those anal retentive, detail-oriented types like myself, we can also explain our brief description of step, crossover, and C-step. We can expand that to step, crossover, and feed, hack, and C-step. Let me show you. As I line up on kneel, I go into my Lanka 3 position. I'm on the 4 o'clock line. I want to hack into his ribs and shift his weight back. If I don't, this isn't going to work. Got his arm anchored down right here. I'm going to cue him, pop, and I'm going to step across with block left, punch. Now when I feed this across, I'm just going to move in the opposite direction, still using 2 hands, go into my C-step, and I hack him. I'm going to cue again, stepping in front of him, off this angle, crossover, C-step. The hack occurs a fraction of a second before the C-step. Cue him once more, block left with a punch. Get his arm out of the way, I move at the same time, C-step, the hack occurring a fraction of a second before. Once again, I cue him, then block right with a punch, going to cross over, come in, prepare for the C-step, hack, and then the C-step locks in place. It's the basic flow. One of the things I really like about this B method is that you can knee to cue him and not have to retract your cueing leg. You can simply continue your forward direction, marching on your opponent step for step. Watch this. I start in here, Lanka 3, got his weight shifted back. This time I cue and step through. Once more. Got his weight shifted back. I cue and walk through, staying with him step for step. Now over time you're going to use this step for step approach more and more. And although we label this B method as our Kun Tao method, because you can see the striking that's occurring right away, you can really see Silat's preeminent principle of adhesion in play here. Let me say something about the grip and tension you use to keep on your opponent's arm. Your grip on your partner's arm should not involve your thumb. What you want is a gaff. You know, a gaff is a big hook for hauling in a fish on a pole. Mark McYoung uses that term. This is actually what I call a modified gaff, though, because a real gaff curls in when we're doing this. So I can grab him, and I'm using no thumb, curling the material in here. I can grab this arm here. I can even do what the ladies do and grab in here. Boy, you can just shake him around like a whipped dog. No thumb means a quick release. If I've grabbed his bicep or just the skin on his arm, which is sufficient, as long as I'm pulling it in like this, if I feel there's a problem coming, I just start rocking and rolling. I can move from this grip to that punch just by letting the material slip out. So it's a modified gaff. When I have his arm with this modified gaff, and I'm into this lanka and I've pressed it, make sure that you angle this thing down. Keep your elbow down and towards you. From here, you can rock and roll right into whatever you want because you're not involving your thumb. It's just going along for the ride. You may clamp on his arm a little bit, but still nothing like the true gaff. I'm not grabbing material that I'm going to pull in. Be sure when you do this, as I said, your elbow stays down and your arm behind you as much as possible. Don't keep your elbow high. It takes way too much strength to hold it this way. If he tried to pull, I'd really be using the anterior delt trying to hold him in a little bit of the pec. But down and anchored in, he can pull. Give it a little pull. See, he's not going to go anywhere because he's got to get my arm clean around this corner to get it done. Be sure also to turn your locking foot out. If you don't turn your foot out, you'll have no lateral stability. This outturned foot does a little more than provide stability. It actually makes his withdrawal tougher because now he's got to pull it over this. If I'm just in this position, I'm unstable, he can slip straight out. If I'm in this position, I'm now stable, he can't slip straight out. You've got to pick it up and back it out. Makes it a whole lot tougher to back out of that one. The C-Lot version in all these drills is in some ways more technical and therefore more difficult to do. It requires the player to be much more precise with his position, balance, and timing. But it also has the strongest connection to C-Lot, for in it you see the emphasis on position, position, position. The B and C versions have a Kuntao connection, for in them strikes are used to set up the position. I want to show you a movement that we do out of one of our Kuntao C-Lot forms that uses Lanka 3. And then I'm going to demonstrate that same maneuver on Neil and show you how it plays out. Because a lot of times you'll see a movement in a form and you're wondering, what the heck does that thing do? So, in Lanka 3, that move is applied in this form, we call leg maneuvers, by the way. You go from this position, and then you continue. Now, obviously, the repetition is just so that you practice a continuous move several times. But this part to this part, going from Lanka 3 to Lanka 2. Now, Neil, and I'm going to do this dealing with a Western fighting stance so that you can see where this really plays in very nicely to our fighting as he fights. Boom! He fires his punch and I duck cross. And then this right hand hits high as this left hand hits low. So I cause just enough of a buckle. Now, Neil, if you'll stand back for a second, I'm in that Lanka 3 position. Left leg again. I'm not applying my lock onto him immediately. But from this position now, I drive forward and I apply Lanka 2. That's this movement here. 1, here's the drive forward to Lanka 2. And it works about like this. You can pop in, hit. You can bust it. Work some digits. Oh, that worked, like the crack. Okay. Let's try that one more time. Cross here. Now I move in and I hit this low. Step around to here. You can genuflect and take him down. You can peel him backwards. And then you can just work whatever you want from here. And digits again. Like that. All right. 1 point here. We're using gears. Gears. When I move across here, first gear starts as weight back. Second gear here now is starting to open up the way. I'm going to come around here and use third gear, this arm, to press. And then I go into overdrive, which is fourth gear. I think we've had enough fun here, haven't we? Let's move on to Lunka 3C. My friend Rick Guzman and I will be beating on each other again. We're going to walk through Lunka 3C a few times and then we'll break it down after that. Rick?